I remember standing next to my husband and my husband being introduced to someone and I be totally ignored as if I didn't exist. So it didn't matter.
At the age of 21, I met my true love. We've been together, or we had been together for 8 years, so I can say that he was my first everything. But there was abuse.
A lady recently told me about a senior employer that started taking notice of her, started telling her how pretty she was, started telling her how good that color looks on her, and the next moment the suggestions become more suggestive and more sexually loaded, and how frightened she was of losing her job.
A man phoned us one night. His sister had disappeared off the beachfront in Durban about 2.5 years before. And that night she had managed to steal a client's phone, and she phoned him and said, "Help me." And the next night we went into the area and she came out of the darkness carrying a bundle, and the bundle started moving. This was a child who had been born in captivity. The child was 2 years old, had been used sexually.
The first time I was gang raped, I went home and I bathed and I couldn't tell anyone.
People often think that sexual and gender-based violence is about sex. Actually, it has very little to do with sex. Where we see conditions where there are power imbalances and power inequalities, that is the spaces in which you see sexual and gender-based violence.
And I applied for a job in the newspaper, and I never knew that I was walking into being human trafficked.
We had an argument one evening, and he would beat me, and he would stand on my head in front of my 4-year-old daughter.
So most of the children who come into us misbehave. They don't know how to behave. They don't know how to treat mom with respect. And so they don't show respect. They will hit mom. They will swear at mom. They will disrespect her at every opportunity.
So I'd like to tell you another story of a friend of mine that came to see me for counseling. What she found was that she would come up with ideas, come up with solutions, problem solving, and she felt she was being robbed by her colleague, who was a guy, and would just take over her suggestions, propose them, and be heard without giving her any credit for what she had actually done.
A polo coach was found guilty of abusing large numbers of boys over quite a long time. And these boys tell the story of a coach that takes notice, that sees them, that values them, and then is able to pull them closer to the point where he exposed them to pornography and where he eventually abused some of them.
For 3 to 6 months I was trapped in this room because I wouldn't submit. Then they started threatening my family and then I was broken. And they raped me more than 20 times a day.
I wouldn't feel like dressing. I wouldn't feel like putting on makeup. I wouldn't feel like combing my hair. You know, I would make a ponytail and he would find me in a track pants, which means I was worth nothing but the track pants.
If I have to stand up and minister and preach, I don't know how to dress. Am I going to be intimidating people and I'm going to cause people to fall? So I'm so concerned about these situations of dress codes.
Before I can actually hit you or rape you, I have to make you believe that you are inferior.
I remember escaping for the first time and having a bath. But I had such a bath that I stripped my skin away.
Whereby my mother-in-law used to say in Zulu, "Uzobegezela umtanam," which means you will stay strong in it. And yes, I stayed strong for a very long time, but I broke. And he broke me to the ground.
And I was brought to a safe house. And in that safe house, I learned that it's okay. It's okay to hurt. It's okay to cry. It's okay to walk down the street. And it's okay to love.
The person I thought that was supposed to take care of me, love me, protect me, did the unthinkable things.
Our ladies come to us with eyes that have no hope. They expect to be hurt again. Their expectation is that they will be rejected, that they will not be believed.
I got help. They helped me get my dignity and identity back.
But I thank God, because He gave me the strength and the wisdom to say, I'm not going to endure. I will not stay any longer in a relationship of any kind where I'm being abused.
And society has to acknowledge that when a woman walks out of a situation of abuse, the abuse is not ended.
But God saved me for a reason, and that's not to keep quiet anymore. And that is my choice.
There are so many young women who feel that, or they think that by being abused, it's okay. It's not. It's not okay.
I know that the majority of men are not rapists. I know that the majority of men do not abuse women. But the minority will continue if our men do nothing.
I hope someone would be strong enough to say, I'm not going to Begezela. I'm not going to stick it out. I'm going to report the abuse.
We need to break the silence. It doesn't matter what culture you are, doesn't matter what religion you are, doesn't matter what race you are. We need to break the silence.
This impacts families. The woman that doesn't get that promotion, the woman that earns less than her colleague, it impacts her life and her family life.
I believe God's dream for us is a life abundantly, a life lived abundantly. I believe as long as there's violence, as long as one human being is viewed then less than another, we cannot live our lives abundantly.
There is this beautiful concept of one another that we find in the New Testament of our Bibles. It doesn't exist in the Old Testament. It's this idea of loving one another, caring for one another, serving one another, submitting to one another. And this idea breaks down this hierarchy that I'm superior to you and brings us all down to the same level. And it explains to us that we are to be there for one another.